What's up, guys? Welcome to the In the Blind podcast. Today we have singer-songwriter extraordinaire, Mr. Trent Tomlinson.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Good, brother.
Thanks for having me.
We
Thanks for
really
being
appreciate you coming on, man.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Been looking forward to. I know we tried to get you a couple weeks ago and didn't work out. We really appreciate you making time.
Oh man, it's good to be here. Good to be here. This is a beautiful setup you guys got. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Honored to be here.
Yeah, hard not to feel comfortable in camo furniture.
I know, right? I know, right? I got a hat. I wonder if I'm blending in.
Yeah, disappear over there.
For sure.
It's camo cozy.
Indeed.
Well, I think you're one of my best friends, one of my favorite songwriters in the world.
Thank you, buddy.
As I know Steven said, we both think, I think one of the best, if not the best songwriter I've ever written with.
I appreciate that.
You've had some incredible success. And
Yeah, man. Life's been good to me. You know, now it's just, I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, I went through all of my catalog, and I have different catalogs all over town. One at Universal, one at Spirit Music, and just trying to get all my stuff together to find out where I'm at, musically and under one umbrella, if you will. And it was like 3,600 songs or something since I've been to Nashville. And
Holy shit.
So I was telling somebody, it's like, it's really hard to find things to talk about when you wrote that many things,
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's wild how many ideas are out there. And I somehow every day I find a new thing to say that I've never said before when it seems nearly impossible to do, And so that's really kind of the hardest part for me is navigating the waters of what I've already done and what I've already said, and find another way to say I love you or another way to say goodbye, and that's not been said before. So it's a bit challenging, but I'm up for it for sure.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we were in Mexico last week or 10 days ago. Somebody, after we'd played, Steven made a comment on the mic that your favorite songwriter, one of the best songwriters in the world. Yeah. And a guy came up to me afterwards and he asked me, he's like, well, what makes him the best songwriter you've ever written with? I was like, thought about it for a second and kind of thought back to some of the songs we've written and just when I've been in the room with you. And I told him, I was like, Trent has this incredible gift to take something that's incredibly conversational and lyrically he'll twist it into something that's just beautiful. And my brain doesn't work that way. Like, I would have never been able to come up with that.
Well,
like, I'll say something, Steven will say something, anyone else in the room will say something. You'll go outside, smoke a cigarette, and come back 15, 20 minutes later with just this brilliant line.
Well,
and you took something that was just so generic and you make it just lyrically just insane. It's beautiful.
I appreciate it, man.
You have a gift.
A little bit of trick. I don't want to give all my tricks away, but a little bit trick of mine is I just listen to folks talk in like, for instance, if you're in line at the grocery store, it's people say the damnedest things, and if you just listen a little bit, just how they interact with each other in a conversation of just a legal tender of just paying for groceries, people will say some things that are just, there's such a conversation between two people, but you can really incorporate that into how you a dialogue with somebody in a song, and it's the simplicity of it that's the hardest thing to do. Even though you can make it twist and the yin and yang and the opposites and things like that, it's more about really just talking how normal people would talk, which, believe it or not, is the hardest thing to do, to put into song, to make it especially in 3 minutes time. But it's about listening to just how normal people talk to people in any everyday situations. It's really interesting. Cool. It's an interesting. A guy named David Chamberlain taught me that. He wrote "Am I Blue?" and he wrote "What's Going On in Your World" for George Strait. And he told me one time, he said, Trent, he goes, if you just talk how people talk, people will buy it.
Wow.
It's really interesting.
Well, it makes it relatable.
100%.
That, and that's probably, for me, when I'm listening to music, that's the number one factor. It relates to me, if it makes sense to me, if it sounds like a conversation I would have. That's why I listen to it. Yeah. Oh, you're good, bro.
Sorry, man.
We're tape. We can cut. We're on tape. We can cut. We can cut anything.
Cool.
It's like we first did the first one, and I've only done live shit before, so I sat here with the fucking pressure of a live show, thinking in my mind I'm live and I can't fuck up.
Yeah.
And there can't be no pauses, and I was like, dude, this is terrible. Like, I'm looking at Eric like, say something, bro. Throw me a fucking lifeline here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I know you've told me before, like, some of your heroes, and I know Dillon has been a big influence.
Yeah, Dillon's a big, huge influence on me. There's a point in time, and a lot of people don't remember, especially in the music business. I'm old enough to, though, where they had cassette tapes in before the internet for all this. When I was a kid, I remember I used to open these cassette tapes and I would fold out the inside liner thing that they put inside cassettes. And you could fold it out and you could see they would have lyrics written on it sometimes, and they would have the songwriters. And I knew who Dean Dillon was before I knew what he looked like, you know. And I was just idolized this person's music and have no idea what he looked like necessarily, you know. Because Dean really didn't. He had a record deal at one point, but I don't know that he ever had much success with it. Maybe he had a couple of hits. I don't know. But during that time, I just didn't know what he looked like until I actually moved to Nashville, like in '95 or '96 after right out of high school, and I finally got to meet him, and it was really kind of the first time I really knew what he looked like, you know. But yeah, I'm a huge Dean Dillon fan, and it's such a I hate to use the word simple because it's not. It's the hardest thing to do. But lyrically, melodically, everything just moves. It's a magical language that meets the magical melody together. And when you marry those two, it's hard to lose.
Well, I think that's one thing I also love about your songwriting is the way you marry the lyric with the melody.
I appreciate it.
And you were playing that new song in that round we did in Colorado a couple weeks ago, and you know it was different. Like, the way you played the guitar, like I've never.
Well, that's a lot to do with a guy named Scotty Emmerich too. I mean, Scotty Emmerich, you know, is, in my opinion, is one of the best songwriters I've ever wrote with. Simply because his ability to play guitar so effortlessly.
Right.
He has a unique way of just moving chords and melodies. His melodies are amazing. It's almost like I don't even pick my guitar up when I write with him. You know, I sit in a room and go, just let me put words to it. You know what I mean? And he just really, and him and Dean are really big buddies too. And I think he's had a lot of influence from Dean as well. So I don't really take a lot of all the credit for that's what song in particular I wrote with Scotty and Chandler Walters actually. Who's actually signed to Ernest's Cadillac
New Deal,
whatever. I can't remember what it is, but
he was on a lot of post stuff too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And what a great kid he is, by the way.
Awesome. Dude.
But Scotty really takes the reins with a lot of that kind of style of song, and I'm just real fortunate to be in the room and be able to put words to it. You know, it kind of works. Really great because he's such a stickler for simplicity, and I am too.
Right.
And so, and I kind of infuriate some people when they write with me a lot of the times because I really try to break it down to where it's a pure rhyme every time, and simple.
Yeah.
You know, you can't overthink these things too much, you know, and just let it just be what it is. And he's great at that.
Well, I think you're masterful at
Thank
it
you
as
there.
well.
Thank you. Well,
he just did it right there. Yeah. Pure rhyme every time. I was like, dude, he's doing it right now.
I think that's pretty funny. Yeah.
Well, even like when you introduce a song on stage, it's like your stories are so captivating, and the way that you deliver, even if it's just kind of, I don't know, it's the timbre of your voice or like the cadence and how you do it. It sucks people in. I mean, it sucks me in. Like I'm sitting next to you on stage and like shit, I cannot wait to hear the song. I've heard this story, 150 times, but like you put a little twist on it differently every single time.
Well, I mean, there's different ways of looking at it. But the interesting thing is really the story is actually the song. You know what I mean? And that's what I strive to do is whatever my story is exactly what you're going to hear in the song, you know, and that's what makes it great, I think, you know. And so it's a little bit hard to tee up a song or introduce a song without telling the story. But how I try to write songs is tell exactly what I've just told you, but here's a melody to it, you know.
Well, like your song, I don't know if it's called Truck Stop, but the one that you wrote.
Truck Stop, yeah.
I mean, it's such an incredible song and like literally paints such a vivid, incredible picture. I feel like I'm in the truck stop watching you tell this story when you do it. And there's so many people that can't do that.
It happened that way, you know. I mean, I've actually recorded that song, and I mean, I'm just trying to find the right way to release it and put it out on myself. I mean, a lot of people don't know I had a record deal many years ago, and I still like to make my own records, and it's one of those songs that's special to me. It was a personal thing. and I'm trying to figure out the right way to release this. But the interesting thing about that song, as you said about the story of it, it really goes over well in a live setting when I get to tell the story.
Right.
My biggest fear of that is, will people get the story? Will it have as much of an impact if they don't get to hear the story prior to hearing the record? Which inevitably it really paints the picture of it. It
does, yeah.
But in my mind, I'm like, if you don't hear the story, does the song jump out of the speakers at you if you were just hit it cold turkey and just hear it for the first time? So that's my own insecurities in my head about it.
I think it would, just because that story does paint such a beautiful picture.
I'm going to figure out a way to get that out to the public pretty soon.
I think you need to, because I think people need to hear it.
And I didn't really do a big production on it either. I just like acoustic with a cello and some strings and just something real simple. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are you writing for right now?
I signed a deal with Big Yellow Dog Music, which is kind of one of the biggest independent publishers in Nashville. I mean, I think they started in the late 90s and had a lot of success with Maren Morris and just many things. Great company. I've been there a year, so I've kind of get my feet wet with the company, how things operate, and I'm a bit of a different duck in how I write and just different, a completely different writer than anybody they have over there.
Right.
So we're learning from each other, and it's been great, man. Been getting songs recorded, and
that's awesome.
They've been great for me too, also because they have a lot of young people working there. That's Belmont graduates and people that really have their ear to the ground of new Nashville, which is something I don't.
You don't get out and run around with the kids anymore.
I mean, I'm not going to the 22-year-old party and being the 40-year-old creepy guy in the corner going, "Do you want to write sometime?" It's like I can't do that. So I have to lean on them to put me in a place to understand and know what's happening.
The new listener,
like this guy Hudson Westbrook.
Yeah,
just stuff like that. I mean, I had no idea about who this kid was, but a guy named a buddy of mine, Taylor Phillips, who's a great songwriter as well, kind of turned me on to him because I kind of heard it not through my company, but and then they called me. It's like, who's this Hudson? Because we put his name on the song that we were writing for him. And they're like, "Man, how'd you make this connection?" I was like, "Actually, I didn't." Taylor Phillips kind of turned me on to the guy, but and they knew all about this kid, what he was doing. I mean, who's looking to sign him, all of these things, and so that's the benefit of this new company for me is that they really put me in a place to win and to be in rooms with people that obviously I wouldn't make that connection out and about in Nashville.
Well, they're lucky to be in a room with you. In my opinion.
Well, that remains to be seen.
Hey, well, I'm sure with your songwriting prowess that they will quickly realize
it's interesting, man, how Nashville is. It's everything is such a camp,
Yeah.
If you're not in the camp from the ground floor, man, it's tough to penetrate it.
Yeah.
And it's really one of the hardest things to do because, I mean, and I understand why they do it. I mean, you got your core group of writers that write for a specific artist that. Why deviate from that if it's working? Yeah, why let somebody else into the fold? And I understand that. So that's the challenge for me is because I'm not out there and not big buddies with the new 22-year-old kid who's killing the game. Yeah. I mean, obviously the age gap, the difference doesn't lend itself to be that way. Right. So I have to find ways to navigate those waters, and that's what this company is doing for me. And get me in the rooms and things like that. So it's been great.
I think you're also really good at recognizing young talent. I mean, you started writing with Lainey Wilson when she was new to town. And I think you were the first person to even tell me about her. And then you played me some of the songs that you had written with her.
Well, I got lucky there too. A girl named Terry Jo Box introduced me to her and put that right together. And we wrote Those Boots on her first album for her in that first co-write. So, the stars have to align sometimes, but it's again, it's hard to navigate those waters unless you want to be the creepy 40-year-old guy at Whiskey Jam that goes to the after party with a bunch of 22-year-old girls and guys, and they're like, "Who's the old dude? Who's old school in the corner over there?" Like, it's like I don't know, I just can't do it, you know.
Well, I think you have a good, you have a great reputation.
I mean, listen, none of them can outdrink me probably. You know what I mean? If they want,
this is true.
Definitely.
But I don't know, man. It's like so I have to calm that nonsense down. You know, I mean, I'm getting, you know, I say that. Back in the day, I was pretty much a hellraiser, and everybody knows it. But not so much these days. You know, just kind of falling into to the songwriting part of this thing, and just really trying to develop my craft and get better at what I want to say and what I want to do, and you know. We'll see what happens in the future.
And Brett, I don't know if you know this, but if it wasn't for Trent, I wouldn't have ever met my wife, I don't think.
Oh, wow.
Y'all met at one of my shows, right?
Yeah, at the very beginning of our career.
Interesting. I forgot about that.
The guy that I moved to Nashville was a guy named Jamie Morgan. His father was the CEO of Krispy Kreme Donuts, and Linda Edel Howard was his attorney.
That's right.
So I had gone down to their place when they were living on their farm in Bell Buckle, Tennessee, and Doug Howard who's also from Kennett, Missouri, right?
Yep.
He was, you know, kind of, you know, he was running head of A&R for Lyric Street, which was the label that you were signed to at the time. And Jamie had brought me down there, and I was broke as a joke, laying tile and doing handyman stuff. So Linda hired me to come work on their farm, and I was cleaning out their chicken coops. I was helping them, you know, clean stuff out of their cabin down there and stuff. And I was down there one afternoon. She was like, "Hey, my husband has this artist. His name's Trent Tomlinson. He's incredible. She played me One Ring in the Fire."
Oh, wow.
In the upstairs of his cabin where he had of his setup and stuff. And I was like, holy shit, I got to go hear this guy. Yeah. So I called Steven. I was like, hey, we're going down to the Country Monkey. I think it was during either CMA Fest or something else, and you were playing a show. And my wife was one of the bartenders.
Oh, shit.
And I think the place has been a million different things, like Limelight's right next to the stadium. There. And that was the first time I ever got to hear you, and I like literally sat there with my jaw hanging open, and I was like, "Holy cow, this guy's incredible!" And then one thing led to another, and about 6 months later, Linda didn't even know that I was like an aspiring artist at the time, and walked into Doug Howard's office, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" He was like, and I had just seen him the week before, literally cleaning out his chicken coops. He's like, I didn't even know you played guitar, sang, whatever. And so, you know, we had that weird connection, and
it's great.
And we ended up getting signed there, and we were on Lyric Street Records together. Yeah. And I just ever since then, I mean, that was the first time I had ever heard you, and kind of idolized your songwriting and your voice and everything. And
well, you're welcome for your wife.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
The other interesting story is that me and Eric Church used to run together down a place called Printer's Alley. There's a place called Fiddle and Steel Guitar Bar, and
great spot.
It was a great spot.
Yeah, man, missed that.
And Jody Williams was running MCA Music Publishing at the time, and I got a publishing deal there. And Eric Church's wife was the intern at the front desk at MCA, and he would come over. That's where he met his wife, Catherine.
Wow.
Was coming over there, and writing songs and hanging out. So like. I don't know.
So, man, maybe you need to, if you're looking to get married.
Yeah, well.
Trent Tomlinson, listen, connection.
Maybe I can introduce you to one, but I certainly can't find one myself. You know what I mean?
That's how the shit goes.
I don't know. Weird, you know. But, yeah, man, it's been a long ride, man. I've been here a long time, and I'm just thankful that I'm still be able to be here and make some kind of scratch on this thing.
Man, I think you're a little bit of a legend in this town. I mean, I knew who you were before I knew who you were. You know, like there aren't, you know, a lot of people like that really in Nashville. Yeah. I mean, that aren't already famous. You know what I mean? Like most of the people you know about them, they're famous. But like I'd heard about you. You know, through musicians and other writers and stuff, and everyone's always like, "This dude's a badass." Just wait,
oh man, thanks.
You know. And then you know, I still mystified as to how you know you don't have a massive artist career because you're one of the best damn singers.
Well,
I mean,
it's the business, man. I mean,
just how it goes.
It's how it goes. I mean, Lyric Street Records closed their doors, and it really. I mean, Rascal Flatts had sold 20 million albums, I think, at that point, and they still closed their doors. And obviously they went over to Big Machine, but it was tough, man. You know, to navigate those waters, and you know, the interesting thing was I think I was the #1 selling new artist of 2006, and my second album was in the can after One Wing in the Fire was a hit, and it just might have a radio on, and it was in the can. And I went to CRS Country Radio Seminar that February, and I, you know, on top of the world, really, from my artist career standpoint. And then I think the label folded 2 months after that, and so it never seen the light of day, you know. So, and what's interesting time is that was during the time that Taylor was really becoming successful and making her mark, Taylor Swift, on the business, and I think the business was looking for that.
It demographically shifted.
You know, but she brought such a new listener to country radio.
Yeah, young girls.
And guys like myself and Jamie Johnson, Jamie Johnson had The Dollar out, a song called The Dollar. And I just don't think that people were trying to re-sign what I was doing. In other words, a transition from my record label to another one, because there's such a new sheriff in town, which was Taylor Swift. And at that point, prior to Taylor, you know, the demographic of country radio was 22-year-old woman to a 44-year-old woman. It was like in that, you know, and maybe even more, maybe later than that. And they never had that 16-year-old listener.
Right.
And then when they got it with Taylor, they're like, okay. And then the business kind of shifted. I mean, I think that's what happened. I don't know. But I never got, and I looked, you know, I signed a deal with a thing called Skyville Records, but it just never was the same.
Is that Wally Wilson and
Paul Worley and those guys, and I'm not gonna get into that, but it just didn't work. And also too, the second album I had done in the can for Lyric Street that was going to come out never came out. And so I was off the tail end of putting a brand new album together, and that I didn't own, that I couldn't go take to somewhere else. And so I had to go find songs that got passed over for the first 2 albums to release on my own at this new deal, which, let's be honest, wasn't my best songs, because the best songs made the first 2 records. And so I wish I'd have done it a little bit different and taken a little more time to write some new material, but when you're young like that and you lose your deal, it's such a whirlwind that happens mentally, and you just want to get back out there. So let's take this song, the next best song that didn't make the record, and let's put that out, which is a bad decision to do, because there's a reason why I didn't make it. And I wish I could take that moment back and redo it, but hindsight's
do you have those songs, that album now? Or
I mean, I don't own it. No. I mean,
so
it's
Disney.
Disney owns it.
It's never
I
been
did
released?
get one song back out of my contract when I parted ways with Lyric Street. It was a song called "Angels Like Her Send Guys Like Me Straight to Hell," and it was on my first album. And it was one of those songs that even to this day, even Cody Johnson was actually. There's like YouTube videos of him singing that down in Texas before. So that in the song that's sung around Nashville, we go on these honky tonks. And that song was special and still is special to this day. So I own that track, and I own that master of the recording of that song. And I just now re-sang it and remastered it and remixed it.
Wow.
And now I have it in the can. So and here, it was an interesting thing. If you go look at my first album, Country Is My Rock, on Spotify or Apple Music or anything like that, Angels Like Her was the 3rd song off that record. If you go pull that album up, you won't find that song on the album anywhere.
Really?
Because Disney doesn't own it.
Oh, shit.
You see? Because I own the master of it. So that song has been wiped off the face of the earth off of that record on the streaming. Now, if you had the CD, you would have it on there.
Yeah, right.
But you can't find it on that album because I own the master and they don't own it.
So they're not going to.
So they're not going to put it on there.
They can't make it.
And this is before all the streaming services and all that stuff started happening. Yeah. So it's interesting. So now, because I've had many people message me on Instagram and Facebook about, where's this song? I thought this song was on the album, but it's not. I'm like, and I have to go explain it.
Story, yeah.
And so I'm going to have to put this thing out on my own so it can just be a part of the body of work, but it won't be a part of the Country Is My Rock album. It'll just be a new EP or something that I would do. But I've got it done.
That's awesome.
So, and I'm shooting some content with a guy named Chase Lauer, and I'm not trying to be on the radio and be that guy anymore, but I need to make some music of my own because I have a great fan base from many years that still requests stuff like that. So for that I owe, and so stuff coming soon.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I think back to your story about Taylor. I mean, since me and Steven were new and fresh to town.
Yeah.
When Lyric Street closed, we had just had top 5 with our song Runaway, and we had a song that was I think it was number 15 on the chart. We kind of were blindsided. The same thing. We were coming home from a radio show on Bill Park's little radio tour.
Yeah, Bill Parks. I mean, I did the same thing. He drove me around the country.
Yeah, he loved you. I mean, he always told us stories.
That was a good time.
But we're on that bus, get a phone call or got a text message from somebody at Lyric Street saying, "Hey, just so you know, the label's shutting down. Y'all are getting dropped." And
it's a rough call to get, man.
It was. And we didn't know what to do because we had getting that first deal was like. And that was our dream.
The interesting thing too, that call comes from your management. It doesn't come from the label. The label will let your management know, and then that you're no longer a part of the team, and then your management has to break it to you, and then they give you this chin up story about we'll find something else, and and that's what managers do.
Our manager was Mark Miller from Sawyer Brown.
It's such an empty feeling to have because I mean you work your whole life to
get that deal.
To get the deal. I mean, it was just you got a better chance to get struck by lightning than getting a record deal. It's really the truth. And just in a blink of an eye like that, it can be gone, and you don't even know it's coming.
Well, it's because the company went under. Like
that's
you
what
have
I mean.
nothing
it's like
to do with.
It would be different if I had like 4 or 5 singles that bombed, but I didn't.
Right,
every one I had was a hit record off the first album, and the second one, did this. The CRS thing, and I had a great response there with country radio, and I had a great relationship with country radio, and it just didn't.
Damn shame you never got to put that album.
I know, man. It was interesting. There was a song on that record called "Why Can't I Leave Her Alone," and George Strait winded up recording that song and putting it on the Just Comes Natural record with "Give It Away" and all those songs. And it was gonna be one of the ones I was gonna put out. I just didn't get that far, man. You know what I mean? And but I'm thankful that George cut it because it was.
I was about to say it was pretty good.
For sure, but I wanted it for myself, and it's a good album, man. I wish I owned it so I could share it with the world, but I just don't.
That's crazy. Just a little peek into how fucked up the music world is. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's your art, dude. Whether they can stamp whatever they want on it.
I mean, they put the money up for it to be recorded. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into
part of
it.
the business,
it just depends on what your percentage of your deal is. Right. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you guys saw that Jelly Roll podcast thing he did about where he kind of breaks it down.
He broke it down.
It's really truly like that, and it's you're paying back, you're recouping all this your deal out of the percentage that you're getting. Yep. So
and then they're charging you interest on everything
70-30. They're taking their 70 of every dollar and then recouping all their money out of your 30%. So therefore, you ain't got no money. And people don't really understand that. Like, well, if you had a video back in the day, if you had a video on CMT or you're doing this, you have a hit record. Oh my God, he's famous. You got all this money. You ain't got nothing, bud. I mean,
you're grinding.
You need 5, 6, 7 number ones before you can get out of that apartment you're in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sure. It's wild.
Well, this will make you laugh. I was on the phone with Steven this morning. Steven Lyles, my bandmate, for those of you who don't know who he is, but
great singer.
We were actually, when the label folded, we were on tour with Taylor Swift. We were the first band that she ever took out on the road with her.
Oh, yeah.
And she ended up writing a song about Steven. It was on her Fearless record, I guess. But me and Steven got a check from Disney yesterday for $6.31. And it's taken us 19 years to recoup that. And we gave them the album finished. Like, they didn't put up the money for us to record it. Like, we had 2 producers. And it still took 19 years for us to recoup. So now we finally got our first check ever.
For $6.
For $6 from Disney.
That's why I love the songwriting game, man, because I don't have to worry about that no more. I can go. I wrap my hit. When I wrote "In Case You Didn't Know," man, that's what a song that changed my life, and man,
10 times platinum.
It was 10 times platinum. And then you go to Mailbox and you got all this money and you don't owe nobody nothing, and it's yours. And not only that, it's a copyright that will pay you for the end of time.
I mean, that song's gonna be played for forever. It's so good.
I know, and then you can sell it and have a catalog sale, and there's a lot of hedge fund companies that are buying up revenue streams and stuff like that. You can sell the catalog and.
So that
so it's easier on this side of things financially than it is to be an artist, really.
What's your take on selling your catalog? To me, sounds crazy. Sounds like a money grab. It's like you're taking away the mailbox money for the rest of your life. But I get it. It's a big check, and some people can get a lot of money for their catalog. And there's been some crazy numbers paid for catalogs, like Michael Jackson and
well, I think nobody sells their catalog, or at least I would never, until the royalties have paid out the sum of the money. In other words, if it pays out, you let it pay out for over 2 years or whatever. Then at that point, every quarter your checks are kind of around the same. So at that point, you've got all this money that you've made off the song and the hit record. So the question is, do you want to wait 10? In other words, if you made $10,000 a quarter off a song every quarter, so which will roughly be what 40 grand.
Yeah.
Put a multiple of 10 on that, $400,000 or whatever. But if you have 3 or 4 songs in a catalog sale, you can get upwards of $3 million. But you've already been paid your royalties out on that.
So you've made a lot of money
to where
off
it's just kind of a steady revenue stream. But you can do a lot more with $3 million in hand and put that money to work for you, as opposed to let it pay you out in $10,000, $20,000 increments over a 10-year period. So I think it's a good thing if you invest your money right. If you don't, then you're screwed. Because there was a point in time where it's 20% capital gains tax, and so therefore, if you did a catalog sale and sold it for $3 million, you don't
cracked for that.
You don't get to pay 20% capital gains. You get to walk away with a substantial amount of money to the good tax-free dollars that you can buy real estate with. You can put it to work and invest it. So I think it's a good thing if it's done right. And now, there's no way in the world I would sell the rights to any of my songs prior to them being paid out over a couple of years, but after it's been a hit.
Right.
Because you just don't know what it's going to do necessarily. Like, in case you didn't know, for instance, it 5-6 years, it sold 10 times platinum. You could have jumped the gun on that and gone and sold it when it was 2
years and
2 times platinum. You know what I mean? And then you would never
you'd missed out on a bunch of money.
You'd missed out on a bunch of money, or a multiple of 10. In other words, in 10 years they'll give you a multiple.
So can you will your royalties? Do they pass on?
Oh yeah.
So I didn't realize
to your children all the copyrights in the songs in the catalog, and it's one of the beauty things of the music business.
That's pretty incredible.
Ownership of copyrights is it's
you
forever.
It's your property.
And when you take 4 or 5, 6 number one songs and you bundle them together and make a catalog sale, depending on how big the songs are, I mean, it's a big time payday for your kids or yourself, and just depends on how you want to play it.
Right.
I mean, there's no 401k in the music business. You know what I mean?
Right.
You gotta get it when you get it and invest it the right way, or you're in trouble. And I certainly didn't do that early in my career. I was, young and stupid and loose. Oh my God, I want that truck. Let's go buy it.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need it, and so you just got to be smart with it. And took me a lot of years to figure that one out.
I think it does all of us.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
What are your thoughts on the current state of the music business? I mean,
it's the Wild West.
TikTok.
I love the fact that independent artists have a voice. Can get out there and make something happen without the big machine behind them. I don't like that the music gets watered down. I don't like the fact that it's all about the like and not about the music.
Right.
And I say that, don't mean it's that way every time, but a lot of it's about, I've heard a lot of really bad songs that's got a lot of likes,
Yeah.
And I've heard really great songs that doesn't have any.
Right.
That part of it bugs me. I don't know what to make of it. All I know is what to do is what I do, and try to write the best song I can. And I think if you do that and you work hard and create the best music you can, God will find a way to place it in the right place for you, and try not to get caught up in the noise of what I need to be doing. When you make this content, you need to do. I don't know how it works. I just know that good music will always win,
Without a doubt.
and find a way, and so yeah.
Yeah, I know Eric Church had made a comment a couple years back about this, or maybe a year and a half ago. He's like, "There's some guys out here at the top of the charts that can't sing or play their songs." And I was like,
Well,
"Ooh!" I was like, "Man, I mean, he ain't wrong."
Well,
I've heard him.
I agree with Eric.
Yeah.
Another thing that irks me, and I probably shouldn't say this, I never went out on stage or played a show that people run tracks a lot these days, and there's nothing wrong with running some tracks. But when you're standing up there looking at a band and there's bass being played, but there's no bass player on stage, it weirds me. It's weird for me, you know. And I understand it's dollars and cents for the touring. I mean, you save money on paying a bass player every night. But it's always bugs me because like I never walked out there, and if we can't play it live, we ain't playing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's my old school mentality. But I mean, what the heck do I know? You know, people. It's about dollars and cents these days, I guess. You know. But I really believe I would like to see more people really dig in and be more organic and play the music that you record. You know, show everybody that you can do it.
Yeah.
Not have a bunch of things, bells and whistles behind you. And that's Chris Stapleton. I guarantee you, Chris Stapleton doesn't run a track. Not one.
No.
If you can't play it live, there's no sense in recording it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that disagree with me. You know,
What's sad is I completely agree with you, yet I'm guilty of doing that because, like, where Steve and I are at in our career, it's like, you know, we're not making $50,000, $75,000 a show anymore.
Right.
So, in my case, I went back and personally played the bass. I mean, I played everything,
And
so I
then you
played all of it,
run
and
your
that's
tracks.
being run. But
Yeah.
still, someone's looking at us on stage.
Well, I'm sorry for calling you out.
Oh no! Well, you're not calling me out.
But I do understand the dollars and cents of it because it
and
makes
for me
it does
that's
make
ultimately
sense.
the only reason.
Right.
Because I remember going to a Sam Hunt show.
But I've seen you guys play
like,
for years, and you had full band bass
yeah,
play.
and if
all
I
those
could
stuff,
afford
so,
it, like me and
yeah.
Steven are leaving for Europe tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're not running any tracks. We've got a band over there. The whole thing is live,
That's
and I
great.
cannot wait to do it just
Yeah.
because it's like it'll go back. I mean, we've only done this running a bass track for 3 years now.
Yeah.
And I hate it every single night when I go out there, but it's like I can't afford to have
Yeah.
10 guys on stage with me every night
Yeah.
and still be able to make ends meet and pay the bills playing music.
Yeah.
So
I've
I've
just
had
always,
to make some concessions.
I've always kind of felt like I was faking people out, you know,
Yeah.
and I never liked that feeling I had personally, like, you know, but people are doing it. They're all doing it. I mean, shoot, you go to a Drake concert.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's nobody on stage but him.
Yeah.
You know, and I get in the hip hop world, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
But in the country world, when especially you're playing like, you know, I don't think Zach Top does it.
No.
You know, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, it's just for me personally,
You really like
that part of it. You know,
like seeing somebody like Zach
Yeah.
Top succeed. I mean, to
Oh,
me,
yeah,
being a
man.
'90s guy,
I love it, man.
you know,
he's phenomenal.
Dude, I
He's
think
a
I've watched-
bluegrass singer in
Yeah.
the country world. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
Ricky Skaggs. It's
so
all
good.
those things. I think he's fantastic.
He plays the hell out of the guitar. Like I've watched
Yeah.
every
Man,
single
he's
one of
just-
his YouTube videos and just sit there and
It's-
love
it's-
every second of it.
And,
He's
and
so
it's,
great.
It's what we needed for the
Yes.
for the country music world, and a shot in the arm that we needed, and certainly for me. You know, I've been writing that kind of song my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, and
Right,
so I'm
right.
like, wow, now there's an avenue. You know,
Yeah.
things are getting more country. We heard that said for so many years. Well, it's going to go back country. Well, it never did.
Yeah.
But now it really, truly is, and it's good to see. And
Yeah, we had him
so
on that.
maybe I can hang around a little bit longer now
Hell
that,
yeah.
now that that's coming back around.
We had him on an outdoor show over here in the parking lot.
Oh, yeah?
And I have to admit, I had never listened to him before. And I'd had several people tell me, you got to listen to this guy.
Yeah.
And he was playing It Sounds Like the Radio. And I was never heard it before. And I was singing along with the whole damn song.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Oh yeah,
I was like, is this a cover? And my wife was like, no, that's his song.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, how do I know all the words?
I know, right?
already?
Yeah.
Well,
It's because it's that damn good. It's that written
damn-
that well.
He sings that well, but he also has an ace in the hole, and his name is Carson Chamberlain.
Okay.
And Carson Chamberlain is producer, and he's one of the best songwriters in Nashville, and he's his producer too as well. Carson has always had a knack for really of writing songs just like that. You swore you've heard it before.
Yeah.
He writes such great country music that it sounds like a standard the first time
Yeah.
you hear it, you know. And that's what he's done. He found the right guy. Carson found the right guy at the right time for the way for the style of music that he writes. It's the perfect fit.
marriage.
It's
Yeah.
the perfect marriage, and it's
It's showing on the charts.
Absolutely, and it's going
blazing.
to for a long time, I think, Kudos to those guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, like we were saying about, it's going to go back more country. I remember when we first got into the business, we were kind of more on the pop rock side, and people were like, oh, no, you're not country enough. We won't play this.
Yep.
And now people are coming to us being like, oh, y'all are actually more country than some of the stuff we're hearing on the radio.
Well, we're older, man.
Oh,
things,
shit.
Things are progressed. But Whiskey on My Breath was a real country song.
Oh, for sure. And
a great record. Yeah, man, it's just, who knows what happens in the future. I would love to see radio really be at the forefront of things. And here's why. It's like, you can have all these streams all you want, but where do streams come from? They're from globally.
Yes.
You might have millions and millions of streams on your song, but that don't mean you're going to Charlotte, North Carolina and selling out Coyote Joe's.
Right.
But I'll tell you when you will is when WSOC in Charlotte, North Carolina is playing the heck out of your record.
Right.
Radio stations really have a beat on their markets, and that's really, and I think Luke Combs and Morgan and all those guys will tell you, you can't be a superstar and sell out arenas without country radio doing what they do.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
Yeah.
In my opinion, for drawing crowds in these markets that you go to. Because if you have a song, well, you streamed 3 million records, 3 million streams on this song, well, that's spread out all over the world. It's not, it doesn't drive traffic. It doesn't drive the ticket sale.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And radio advertisement does. Radio, this guy's coming here. This guy's going to be playing this, an advertisement for the show along with them playing the record. It's, I would really like to see radio catch up. In other words, play records sooner than later.
Yeah.
Because when you with the streaming service, it's immediate.
Right.
In radio, they won't get on it, start playing it till
it's just play the single
till it's proven in the market. I'd like to see more radio programmers jump on records sooner, so they can just like if Zach Top drops a new single that's coming out, dropping on Spotify or wherever it's dropping, or at all streaming platforms, that radio adds it that day too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Obviously, you can't add all records because there's not so many slots or whatever. But it to get out in front of make radio a more prominent part of our business.
Yeah. Would you agree?
Because I think artists benefit for it more.
Yeah.
And songwriters certainly do too.
Would you agree that there used to be more radio programmers that were willing to take chances? And
I do.
They had the ability to take chances, and now
they
the
did.
Playlists are so restricted.
Well, you got
conglomerates that
you got Cumulus, and you got iHeart. That's you got one guy programming every city in America, as opposed to a program director in that particular city knows the pulse of that city. Right. He knows knows the listener, knows what they like, knows what they don't like, and it was really it's tough. With the streaming services kind of really taking that out of the game, and obviously it's the way young people consume music, and nobody. You hear it all the time. Nobody listens to the radio anymore. But I think they still do to some degree. But I know at least for myself, and to sell out, like Coyote Joe's in Charlotte, North Carolina, I keep going back to it because it's a big A-room honky tonk that holds probably 3,500 people probably. I mean, it's a from a new artist with a couple of hits. It's hard to sell it out.
People.
I mean, the only time we ever sold it out was when we had a hit song on the radio.
Yeah, but I don't think you do that just because you got a lot of streams on a particular song, because it's not concentrated to that area.
Yeah,
you need that radio support for their listener to know who this person is and that they're coming to town.
Yeah. I was talking to a new artist the other night, and he was like, I'm about to go out on my first radio tour.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, I mean, you can be out for the next 6 months to a year. He was like, no, we're knocking it out in a month. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
We're going to 25 stations. I'm like, when we started, you had to go to 175, 180 different stations. You had to buy each one of them steak dinner. You had to buy them their bottle of wine, their TV,
100%.
their bag of blow, whatever it is that they wanted. You know what I mean? Like, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it was funny because
the perks for that gig.
Seriously. But I mean,
back in the day, I mean, I was kind of guy. I'm the kind of guy that's always kind of had nervous energy, and just been who I am, and I never was good. And I told these guys prior to my radio tour that I'm not good at 3-hour dinners. if you put me at a 3-hour dinner, I get disinterested, and I don't want the program director to feel like I'm disinterested. But I just got to be moving. So what I did was we come up with this idea where I got a bottle of Jim Beam whiskey because I had a lot of songs on my first album that had Jim Beam in it, and I just got a dog tag that went around the top of the bottle. And I would, instead of going to radio stations and going inside playing for their listeners, all that stuff, I would invite them on the bus, and I would play songs for them on the bus, which is kind of a unique situation where you're it's just different.
Yeah.
And I would hand them this bottle of whiskey with a dog tag with my bio and all this stuff on it, say thank you, and we'd roll down the road. I didn't want to sit with, I mean, I did some of those dinners, but just sitting for 3.5 hours, and it was just too much for me. So it really served me well on that first initial radio tour. Is just we pulled up there, and I had my logo and stuff on the side of the bus, and all of that, and just would just handle a bottle of whiskey with a dog tag hanging off the neck of it.
Well, we benefited from that also, and I just realized that's why that happened, probably because of you. But remember, Chris Palmer was our radio rep.
He was, that's right.
And he said, hey, this is what one of our artists, he never said it was you, but he's like, this is what one of our artists did. And half of our radio tour, after the first kind of 6 months we've been out there and all these dinners, and like you said, we were getting it was exhausting just sitting there.
It was, man.
For us at the time, it was 3 dudes sitting there trying to remain engaged and pretend that you're like really interested.
And the person that you're sitting with at the dinner has no idea that you just did this 5 nights in a row with other people, and and when you get there, they're wanting cocktails, they're wanting wine, and so I mean, you can really run yourself ragged because if you're trying to, and everybody has a different personality, and you got to make, and not everybody's personality gels with each other, you know, and to set an artist down at a dinner for 3 hours for somebody they really just don't gel with, as opposed to just in and out, play the music, let it speak for itself, say thank you, and go on your way.
And I think that could actually end up hurting an artist, forcing them to sit in that environment.
Well, it's like
it's sitting there on your phone or you're twiddling your thumbs.
He said you start to lose interest, like it's like, damn, I don't want the guy to think I'm not interested, but like, shit, bro, I've been sitting here for 3 hours.
Well, the longer you sit there, the more that chance happens.
For sure.
Or the more you drink and
but that's interesting you said that. I didn't know that. So there are 25 stations in a month, because we spent all year doing it. I mean, literally 7-8 months.
And then
you would hit all the East Coast, and then you would go Midwest, and then you go. I mean, you'd spend probably 2-3 months out on the West Coast, just going up from Washington State all the way down to San Diego.
And the flip side of that is we did meet some of our best friends in country
100%.
radio, and that have now. We go on vacation with some of these guys still, just because 100%. You do click and you connect with certain people.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, if it wasn't for those people, we would have never had number ones or top fives, top tens, because those were the guys that went into the station at 2:33 in the morning to give you the extra 20 spins that you need to get to that benchmark. And they're doing it for you because you're now their friend, as opposed to the other person you're 100%. Fighting for the chart position with.
100%.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, you got to.
There was one particular guy, I'm not going to name his name, but you know exactly who I'm talking about, that you were not going to get your record added unless you took him to the strip club and got him lap dances all night long.
Oh, 100%. For every song
you know what I'm talking about, right?
100%. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
that's wild.
You're not a dinner, but you would give him about $1,500 worth of fun tokens and turn him loose at a strip club.
So he didn't like steak; he liked roast beef.
Well, something like that, or fish.
Yeah, one of the two.
But yeah, man, it was. I remember, my regional telling me about this guy before we got there. I mean, I got the whole lowdown on this cat, and he was like, "Man, this is what he does." I mean, just like, you really don't have to do anything with him. I mean. You just take him out to a strip club and give him $2,000 of cash or whatever, and just turn him loose.
He didn't give a shit about the music.
And if it's the same guy I'm thinking of, it didn't hurt that he happened to be in the strip club capital of the world.
Yeah. Well, that's actually that's another one. There's two of them. This was kind of. Anyway, we're not going to go there, but
we'll talk about that after.
Yeah, we'll talk about it after. But he was a great guy and a great programmer, and he got stuff done.
Yeah.
I mean, but again. If you're sitting at number 11 or number 12 on the chart and you need a few extra spins to get you over that hump, you call him, remind him, remember that dance I got you with Tiffany? Don't
forget about
throw me some spins, bro. And he would every time. And then you wake up on Monday morning and you like jump 3 spots or whatever. Pretty crazy.
You were talking about how you think radio should be more important. one of the guys I think has gotten away without it the most is probably Zach Bryan.
Oh, for sure.
And he's a viral, internet sensation.
That's a good point.
He's an anomaly, though. I think.
It is an anomaly.
What I was about to say, I think he is an anomaly because you don't really see anybody else make it like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe like
I don't
Tyler
necessarily consider that
or,
the country music format, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's more Americana.
It's more of it's more in the lane
Folk.
of Springsteen and all of those kind of things, in my opinion. It doesn't, to me. And I love his music. I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying, to me, it doesn't sound like country radio or has ever sounded.
Right.
It was more. It's more Americana.
Yeah.
I
agree. I agree with that.
Things like that just happen. They're anomalies, things that happen.
And there's also a certain that fan base. I would argue, they're kind of anti-radio, and they're the type of people
100%.
that like to go find these fringe niche type things, and then, like we said, he's an anomaly, but he has millions of fans that love him because he hasn't chased the typical radio, route.
Back in my day, we had that. That was when Cross Canadian Ragweed was really starting to shake things up, and obviously it was the red. It was really what they started calling it Red Dirt Sound. Really, it was kind of the Cross Canadian Ragweed guys, and that was right at the time my album was coming out, and so I remember Texas being my biggest market, Dallas, Houston, all of them. I mean, going to Billy Bob's, and you have huge crowds. And then it wasn't too long after that when CCR really kind of took over Texas, and where it really started the movement of boycott Nashville, and then all of a sudden it just the crowds just dissipated. Well, not stopped, but it wasn't like it was,
Right.
And
I think it was at that point when they kind of had their own chart, and it was their
they had their own chart and
little
everything.
world down there.
Texas would be its own country if you'd let them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They put a big
Totally.
they put a big fence around it, and I don't blame them. I would too. But they're proud, and I love it. And,
they're getting one on one side right now.
Yeah,
Thank God.
I mean, and I love Cross Canadian Ragweed. They were great. They were a great band, but they were never getting played on. They weren't getting played on country radio, and this is before the streaming was happening. So that was just strictly word of mouth.
Right.
Pretty crazy what they did.
100% what they did. They really changed the game. I think that. Remember have you ever heard of the Mile Zero Festival that happens down in Key West?
Yeah.
It's like the Americana Festival, and I guess they showed up and played this year for the first time, been on stage for 15, 20 years.
Wow. Really?
And apparently just blew everybody away.
That's awesome.
Because they broke up, and I think they had some turmoil in the band or whatever. But those guys really started all of this. I mean, the Zach Bryans, all those guys.
The system.
The CCR was the jump off point.
Another one of my favorites is Sturgill Simpson.
Sturgill Simpson's fantastic. Fantastic.
I mean, I respect Tyler Childers, but I mean, I would much rather listen to Sturgill and just. I mean.
Man, my hat's off to anybody who can make anything happen for yourself in the music business.
Agreed.
Whether you like the music or whether you don't, man, it's so hard to do. And kudos to anybody who can find a way in, whether it's social media, whether it's word of mouth, whatever it is, man. I mean, that deserves and demands your respect.
I agree.
No doubt. Yeah, it's not easy. That's for sure. I think it's awesome too that somebody who's made a career of it and grinded it out.
100%.
Is all about hey man, I'll make it however you can make it.
That's right. There's no right or wrong way to do this.
That's the way to be. I think there are some guys out there. They're like, why is this guy? I've been doing this for 10 years. This guy shows up into town. He's got one TikTok video and and bam. And I mean, I get that. Yeah. I understand that side of the coin too. It definitely is
listen, man, this business is not for the faint of heart. You know what I mean? It's tough, man. You got to be, you got to move to Nashville or be in this business with the mentality, I'm going to grow old and gray, dying trying to do this. You can't go, I'm going to dip my toe in the water for a couple of years and see what happens. You might as well go be a real estate consultant. You know what I mean?
I think people respect the authenticity and the people that have that drive and are committed to the craft and kind of sell everything, give up everything just to pursue this. And 100%. I think people recognize that and they respect it. And their success shows that. I think.
Sure.
And
For sure.
I don't know, it's been fun for me, at least over the last 21 years being in it, just to see it change. I mean, even at the beginning, I remember hearing, oh, well, this iTunes, it's going to kill radio, and streaming's going to kill radio. Well, radio's still alive and well, and like you said,
I think it is too,
it.
especially on the touring side of things. It certainly is. It's alive and well, and record labels wouldn't be putting you on a radio tour and still have promotion staff members and all that stuff working stuff with radio if it wasn't a major component to the success of these artists.
I'm not gonna lie, it's changed, but it's still
definitely
such
changed.
a massive, and you have to have it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the thing that cracks me up about the streaming is when artists complain about streaming is, bro, people were just stealing it before.
yeah.
Like, so you.
Well, they're stealing it now too.
Well, absolutely. That'll never stop,
Yeah.
But like LimeWire and Napster and all those services were so prominent back then.
Well, they got shut down by Lars Ulrich from Metallica.
Right.
They shut down Napster. They shut them down.
Sued the hell out of them,
all that Spotify is just a restart company of what they were doing. You know what I mean?
But at least there's something coming to the artist from that. And I know I don't see those checks, so I don't know.
Well, you don't see any of the money unless you own the master recording.
Right.
Yeah. Like in case you didn't know, for instance, I mean, man, it's a billion streams. I mean, I ain't seen no money off the streaming part of it. But I tell you what, I got paid off. It was the country radio.
Right.
Because country radio sells advertisements.
Yeah.
And that's advertisement. They pay BMI, the PR performing rights organizations, to play music, and that's how we make our money. So Spotify doesn't do that.
You didn't sing shit off the streaming for that song.
Not much.
Not to really talk about. Yeah,
not much.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
That's
It's killing the American songwriter.
Yeah, that's outrageous.
And it's that way across the board with all the streaming services.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you participate in the ownership of the master in some way, you're not seeing any money.
Do you see that ever changing?
I hope so. No, I don't see it ever changing unless it's just not a priority in Washington to change them.
Right. Especially with all the other shit that we're dealing with.
Yeah, we have a lot of things in our country
precedence.
and it's always been that way. Nobody's the Music Modernization Act, I think, is what it operates under. I could be wrong.
I think so.
That needs to be changed. It hasn't been changed since the maybe 20s or 30s or something.
knows?
I don't know. I think we moved the needle a little bit a few years ago, but
I was about to say there was
but it
something
wasn't enough to make a difference. It was fractions of cents or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Don't quote me on that because I don't have all my knowledge about it, but I do know that it's just I wish they paid their fair share to like country radio did to songwriters and creators that don't necessarily have to be the artists. The creators of this music. They deserve it.
Yeah. Well, they're the heartbeat of the business, and
it is. It really, truly is. And I don't know that we'll find a solution to it unless it has to start in Washington. I think and change the legislation of that. Like I said, there's just so many other issues that are more important in their eyes than helping the American songwriter.
Well, it's bonkers that you have a song that's 10 times platinum and it's billions of streams and you have made a lot of money off of that. That's crazy.
I've made less than $100,000 off of that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And
that's where everybody gets their music from.
A significantly amount less. And
it should be millions.
It should be.
Yeah.
It's just not, and I don't know.
That's something that needs to be fixed.
A lot of people from the Nashville Songwriters Association, NSAI here in Nashville, Lee Thomas Miller is a fantastic songwriter. He's been going to Congress and lobbying for this for years and to get some of this stuff changed.
Get him
and they've done a lot of great things to move the needle in a better direction. It's just not moved it enough to make it make sense.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so fucking hard to try to keep up with technology.
Well, it's weird to me that you have hundreds of millions of listeners that pay, what is it, a month?
Oh, like $9.99.
Well, I guess there's tiers. It goes up
There's
to
tiers, but then if you
let's just say $15 a month.
$15 a month. Do the math, man.
Yeah.
A year.
Yeah.
Pay for the music that you're playing, just like country radio does, and everybody else should pay for. Because these people got families, man. I mean, there's people that I've known that's moved away from Nashville because they just can't afford them. I mean, guys have had multiple number ones. You just can't do it anymore. And a lot of us aren't too far from doing the same thing because it's like we can't write a song and like and they put it out and it's just on the streaming and it's not going to country radio and what they call content records.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, man, there's no money to be had.
Yeah, I was going to say, who the hell actually gets paid off that?
So my focus really is who's going to country radio, who's going to radio stations. I mean, because that's where I want to funnel my songs.
Heck yeah.
Because if I don't, I'm not getting paid. I'm not going to be able to support my family. So, and that number is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You probably count on maybe a little more than that, maybe 20 artists, maybe.
Yeah.
That's in
Really
Nashville.
active,
That's really active that are going to country radio.
Yeah.
It's tough, man.
Yeah.
And out of those artists have camps.
Right.
That core people they work with, and they don't necessarily allow other people in, which I don't blame them.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's really, really tough to be an American songwriter and make a living anymore. Used to, you could have, Alan, because like on George Strait's Just Comes Natural record, I wrote that Why Can't I Leave Her Alone. I mean, that sold millions of copies, and I didn't even have the single. And I made great money off that because that's when they sold it in Walmart.
Yeah,
and we got what they call
call
mechanical royalties, and I got paid pretty good amount of money for that. And I wasn't even on the radio.
Yeah.
But now, it's $0.
Right. I remember talking to Brett and Brad Warren because they were kind of very influential in the beginning of our career, kind of helping guide us and giving us advice on contracts and stuff. And they were telling us the same thing. It's like we used to make really good money as songwriters, not even having a hit song on the radio, and we would have a lot of album cuts.
Well, because people bought the record, they would buy it, they would pay to buy and then you would get a piece of that because you were a part of that record, And now you're a part of the album, but you don't get nothing.
Yeah,
they just stream it for free and don't pay you a dime. Yeah. It's insanity, really.
Yeah, they told us they were like, we're making more money now going out and playing this Travelers Writers rounds than we're making off of writing songs and having album cuts.
Well, I mean, it's essentially what I'm trying to do right now at this point. I mean, I'm having to make a new record. Obviously, I'll own the master, so I'll see whoever streams it, I'll see money from that. But it's like you got to do some things to supplement your income because it's gotten that bad because they're not paying American songwriters any money for streams at all. It's a shame. It's fractions of cents.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And
I didn't know it was that bad. I'm glad that glad we had you
bad.
on to talk about that because that's an issue, man. I mean, because I've said before, singers are a dime a dozen, man, but it's hard to find somebody that can write. Like, there's good singers all over this town, but finding talented writers is.
There wouldn't be these artists if it wasn't for the American Songwriter. It would be nobody. And honestly, truly. With the exception of maybe Steve Earle, who writes every single thing he does. If you write every single thing you do, which I tip of the hat to whoever does that, but the American songwriter is a backbone of all music.
Fuck yeah.
And if we're not taking care of that, then the music is going to get less and less and less. Unless they can find a way to allow the songwriter to participate in the revenue stream of that record, which I don't think record labels are going to give us that piece.
No, because that's money out of their pockets.
Yeah.
And so you're fighting it's kind of a losing battle, really. But I mean, hopefully somebody will figure out a way to get this thing changed. I know, David Israelite and guys at NSCI and those guys really work really hard for songwriters' rights and getting paid and getting what their fair share. And so. Maybe it'll happen. We'll see, but it's good to create awareness like this about it. You know what I mean? For the average person, to understand how it really is.
Yeah, well, I think the average person will be floored to know that you don't make any money off of billions plus streams. Like that's crazy. I'm the average person.
I would be curious to see if in other words, this is just hypothetically, if Spotify said, okay, we're going to pay the American songwriter, the people who write these songs, their fair share. Mm-hmm. But we're going to have to up your subscription $7 more a month or whatever it is. Would they do it? If the awareness was there, I'd be curious.
Well, I think the consumer would really have no choice but to do it
they
because
do it,
where else are they going to get their music?
Well,
if we're not printing CDs anymore. We're not.
Okay, now we're talking because it's like either you want the service or you don't. So why not just there's a million ways to skin a cat. So,
Yeah.
okay, well, you don't want to give us the money. We'll charge $7 more and allot that $7 or whatever it is to pay for the songwriters. But again, you have to divide all that money up amongst every song ever written in the history of time.
Yeah.
You follow me? That's kind of seriously what. And so then it gets down. There's hardly no money.
There's
you know
no
what I mean?
money left. Yeah.
So there's got to be a way they can figure out.
Is there a way to put everybody on the masters?
I mean, the labels would have to do that.
That's what I was about to say.
And it would
I just don't see it ever happening.
I don't
Right.
either. No, I mean, it's just basically like you should give me $200,000,
Which is sad, though,
because you think highly. It
sounds like
because you like what I do and I've contributed to it,
Yeah.
but you don't have to. Well, I don't have to. Well, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's who knows, man.
Yeah.
You know,
But they could.
of course they could.
They could.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But
That's.
I mean, it also lies with the artist too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you listen, if you had a Luke Combs or somebody saying, "Look, man, make a stand," or anybody, Taylor Swift. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody.
I wanted to get my guys paid.
Somebody in that stature of going, and Taylor would be a great person to do this because she's a songwriter too.
Right.
You know, she knows. Hey, I need to take a stand for the American songwriter because we're losing that art and that craft. One by one, people can't afford to keep doing it, so they're taking different jobs.
Yeah.
You know, let's figure out a way to get these people paid for what they've created. You know,
Taylor,
And
you
for
heard
her-
that.
for
We
Taylor-
need you. We need you.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would take somebody like that to make a stand and like, okay, we'll give a point on the record or whatever
Right.
it is. You know, I just don't know, man.
Yeah, but and I think these labels are so greedy and money hungry, which their business they should be, I guess. And the people that are advising them are saying, "All right, this is what you need to do to make these dollars." I mean, let's say, one of our deals we own 13% of the master. So
Right.
again, it takes so long to recoup that, and if as the artist, if you're now having to give up that 1 point and now you're taking 12%. It's like the artist isn't necessarily going to be
That's
motivated to do that for the songwriters and for the
100%,
guys
because
so.
they're getting whipped on the front end
Right.
of this thing. You know, so many moving parts. You know.
Yeah.
You know.
Sounds like the big labels are getting fat and happy, and everybody else is
Well, they
scrambling
always
around
have.
trying
Always
to
have, yeah.
trying to
You
get
know.
what they can get.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, and back in the day, you know, when you had mechanical royalties and you had CDs and all these things like Walmarts and whatever, you can go and buy it, and the songwriters got mechanical royalties, which is essentially participating in the buying and selling, the buying of records. Tip of the cap to the record labels because they put a lot of money, they put a lot of investment in videos, they did everything that you see in creating a brand. They did, and now it's like you can go out there independently, blow your own self up, and then because you sign you to a record deal, and then take 70% of what you did.
They get credit for all your work.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of how it works.
I
man.
remember we played a show in Sanford, North Carolina with Scotty McCreery, Luke Combs, and Kane Brown. And I remember it was the very beginning of Luke's career, and he had some viral success. And he came into our dressing room. I think he opened for us and came into our dressing room after his set, and he was like, "Hey guys, I know you're signed to Sony. This is the deal they're offering me. Like, what do you think about it?" And my jaw hit the floor. I was like, "That's literally the opposite of our deal." Like, you're only having to give up 13%. We only own 13%. I was like,
he got a hell of a deal.
Take that deal and
Immediately.
He got a hell
right
of a
now,
deal.
and he ended up doing it.
Yeah,
And I mean, but at that point, I was like, holy shit! If we had been able to do that legwork independently, and we had the streaming services, and
we
we had
never had that
iTunes when
luxury
we
at
started,
the time,
we would have been in a totally different
You'd
position.
have a lot more leverage,
yeah.
Instead,
sure.
at that point, we still owned
Yeah,
Disney. We owed Sony a
Yeah.
crap ton of money. I mean, we'll never recoup our
I think
record.
I think Jelly Roll got a hell of a deal too.
Yeah.
I mean, because he created it on his own, but it didn't happen that way all the time. I mean, it's you're either smart with what you're doing or you're not. You know, and there's just two kinds of and so. But yeah, it's a wild west, man, and we could sit here and talk about this for hours on end about about different stuff.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you make it however you can make it. I guess you're gonna take the deal you got on the table just to make it. Like you worry about the next one. Like we're here. I get it. They have all the leverage though. It's definitely a loaded hand.
I said it before and I'll say it again. I mean, the only true way to to know you're going to be okay. It's just to write the best music you can. Believe that the good Lord's going to put you in a position to win because He has your best interest at heart, and will always do that. And just work hard and just and it doesn't happen on. It never happens on your time. It happens on His time, and that's what you just got to be creative in the best way you can possibly be, and make sure every song that you write it tries to be the best one you can write. And obviously it doesn't happen that way every day, but you strive for that, and the great songs will win. They will always win. They could be, there's some songs that's been out there for 20 something years that find a home.
Yeah.
Look at that. The Ernest, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't, but I want to. Skip Ewing and Dean Dillon.
Yeah.
Probably wrote that in the late 80s, Now it's on the radio. Yeah. It's like, great songs will always find a way to show up somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
Indeed. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Not for sure.
Yeah, man. We really appreciate you, dude.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
Man. My pleasure.
Trent Tomlinson, y'all.
Thank you, y'all.